A bowl of Yangchun noodles Part 1. In the bustling city, the highlight of the year was undoubtedly New Year's Eve. Every noodle restaurant was alive with the sounds of laughter, chatter, and sizzling woks, but none was more vibrant than Beihai Pavilion Noodle House. On this particular night, the restaurant was teeming with customers, from families enjoying hearty meals to friends catching up over bowls of noodles. The smell of savory broth wafted through the air, drawing people in like moths to a flame. As the clock inched closer to 10, the streets outside began to quiet down. The usual hustle and bustle diminished, and one by one, the customers at Beihai Pavilion trickled out. It was a familiar rhythm. The restaurant would be alive until just before midnight, and then the owners would begin to tidy up, preparing to close for the night. But just as the owner was about to announce the closing, the door creaked open. A woman stepped inside, accompanied by two young boys. The older boy looked around curiously, while the younger one clung to his mother's side, peeking out shyly. "Welcome," greeted the owner's wife, her warm smile lighting up the dimly lit restaurant. Can I have a bowl of Yangchun noodles?" the woman asked hesitantly, her voice barely above a whisper. The boys, clad in their brand-new sportswear, remained hidden behind their mother, their eyes wide with a mix of excitement and apprehension. "Of course. Please have a seat," the owner's wife replied, leading them to a cozy table near the heater, where they would be warm and comfortable. "One bowl of Yangchun noodles," she called out to the kitchen. The owner, busy at the counter, looked up and nodded. "Coming right up. One bowl of Yangchun noodles." In a matter of moments, the owner grabbed a generous handful of noodles, adding a little extra just for them, and dropped it into the boiling pot. The steam rose, filling the restaurant with a mouth-watering aroma. When the steaming bowl of noodles was placed on the table, the mother and her two boys leaned in, their faces lighting up with anticipation. They gathered around the bowl, their heads almost touching as they dug in. "This is so delicious!" exclaimed the older brother, slurping his noodles with delight. "Mommy, have some too," the younger brother insisted, picking up a piece of noodle and offering it to her. The mother smiled, taking a bite, and her eyes sparkled with warmth. "It really is good," she agreed, savoring the rich flavor. Before long, the bowl was empty, and the trio paid the modest sum of 5 yuan. They thanked the owners with genuine smiles before stepping out into the night, their laughter lingering in the air. "Thank you. Wishing you a wonderful new year," the owners called after them, their hearts warmed by the encounter. The days turned into weeks and weeks into months. Beihai Pavilion remained busy, serving both regulars and newcomers alike. Life continued, filled with the usual ups and downs, but the memory of that New Year's Eve lingered in the minds of the owners. As the next New Year approached, the excitement in the village grew. People decorated their homes, preparing for family gatherings and celebrations. Beihai Pavilion was no exception. The owners were busy planning for one of their busiest nights of the year. Finally, the day arrived. Just like the previous year, the restaurant buzzed with energy, filled with the sounds of clattering dishes and happy conversations. The clock struck 10, and the streets began to quiet down. The owners exchanged glances, knowing it was almost time to close. But just as they were about to lock the door, it creaked open again. The same woman, dressed in her mismatched plaid coat, entered with her two boys in tow. The owners' hearts skipped a beat as they recognized their old customers. "Can I have a bowl of Yangchun noodles, please?" the woman asked, her voice carrying a mix of hope and familiarity. Of course. Please have a seat, the owner's wife said, guiding them to the same cozy table by the heater. Yangchun noodles, one bowl, she called out, her excitement evident. The owner, busy at the counter, looked up and nodded, a smile spreading across his face. Coming right up. This time the owners exchanged a knowing glance. The owner's wife leaned closer to her husband and whispered, "Let's give them 3 bowls, shall we?" "No, we don't want to make them uncomfortable," he replied, shaking his head but with a hint of mischief in his eyes. Instead, he prepared a generous bowl, slightly larger than usual. The family gathered around the table, and as they began to eat, the sounds of their conversation filled the restaurant. "It's so good to be back," the older brother exclaimed, his eyes gleaming as he twirled the noodles around his chopsticks. "Yay! Yangchun noodles again!" the younger brother cheered, his excitement contagious. The mother smiled, watching her boys enjoy the meal. "I'm glad we could come back this year," she said, her heart full. Once again, they paid 5 yuan for their meal and thanked the owners warmly before stepping out into the night. "Thank you. Wishing you a wonderful new year," the owners called after them, feeling a deep sense of connection to this family. As the new year rolled in, life at Beihai Pavilion continued in its familiar rhythm. Each day brought new customers, stories, and memories. The restaurant became a hub of community, a place where people gathered not just for food, but for connection and warmth. The family returned again the following year, just as they had before. This time the boys had grown taller, and their laughter echoed through the restaurant as they enjoyed their favorite Yangchun noodles. And so the years passed, with the family returning each New Year's Eve. The owners began to look forward to their visits, eagerly waiting to see how the boys had grown and what stories they would share.